Today, we're going one-on-one with Dr. Renee Fowler Hornbuckle as she gives an in-depth, step-by-step, retrospective look on recalibrating your life from the inside out. Come along on this journey as Dr. Renee speaks.
I'm Dr. Renee, and welcome to Dr. Renee Speaks. Today, we're going to recalibrate our life. And as we begin to do that, there's a place of resolve that I want you to get to. And that place of resolve is this. You were born for greatness. It does not matter what circumstances or situations have occurred in your life. You have to resolve within yourself that there is greater on the inside of you, and you have to make up in your mind to push your way through until you achieve the greatness that you're called to. And so that's why we're placed here on earth. We're here because we're created to accomplish an assignment that each of us is called to. And so you have to have a greater expectation in life, that life has something great in store for you. The question is, how do you get to it after life has overtaken you? Well, I just want to give you today 3 ABCs of how you can get to that place of knowing that God has something greater for you. The first thing is, just like we talked about in the recalibration process, it's acceptance. Can you accept that you deserve greater? You have value, you have worth, and you certainly deserve greater in life. You have to understand that God created at least one ability in each of us. Deuteronomy 8:18. In fact, let me read it. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability. He gives you the ability. And so there is something that is on the inside of you that God created you to solve or to create. And so when you accept that greater is your portion, when you accept that you have greatness on the inside of it, you accept the value that God put on the inside of you. You got to learn how to talk to yourself and really evaluate where you are. Let me give you some steps to evaluating where you are. Look at everything about your life. Assess and own exactly where you are. Everything, starting with your mindset. That's a great place to start. Start with evaluating. Where did I get my belief systems from? You know, it is highly possible to go through life having believed the wrong things all your life, especially if perhaps maybe your parents or those in your environment or in your upbringing, if you were never exposed to greater, then you have no expectancy for greater. So be willing to ask yourself, say, self, where did I get my belief systems? Where did I get my value systems from? Where did my standards come from? And if those things were never given to you, then guess what? We can always go to the greatest book that I know, which is the Bible, and we can find the standards of how we should be living. Okay? So look at your mindset. Evaluate your surroundings, okay? Look at where you are and where you want to be. You know, I think it's easy to say that most of us at some point in our life probably wanted more. When we were little, we would dream, we would have visions, we would create environments and scenarios, and then we would act those out. But maybe somewhere along the way, someone caused your dream to be destroyed. Well, guess what? If you're still here, you're still living, it's not over. All you got to do is make an assessment of where you are, take a look at your life as it is, and if you don't like where you are, if you're not satisfied where you are, then you are the one that can change it. You have to make a decision that, you know what, this is not where I want to be, and so what can I do to begin to change or reframe or restructure my life so that I can be where I want to be? So be willing to look at where you are. And if you're comfortable, then fine. Stay where you are. Comfortable is how you go about your day, accepting, you know, what you have without giving it any kind of thought. If that's okay with you, that's fine. But let me tell you something. Don't be critical of other people that recognize that, hey, there's greater waiting. We all have access to that same greatness that's awaiting for us. And so I pray that you will shake out of your place of complacency and stop settling for where you are and recognize that greatness is on the inside of me, and get up and do something about your situation. So as you go through this assessment process, you know, I always encourage people to keep a journal, record your dreams, your visions, your ideas, your observations, you know, things in your life that you need to change, and assessing is where you start. I want you to really understand that, because until you look at your life for what it is and evaluate what's going on in your life and assess really what's happening, you won't be able to change. You have to own it. Okay, so that's the first thing you have to do. Accept that you deserve better. The next thing, you just got to believe, in order to step into greater, you may have to change your belief systems. I talked about those earlier. Your beliefs can limit you. What you don't know can hurt you. And so you have to be intentional on making certain that you are believing right. We live in a world that tries to impose its belief systems on us and tries to get us to accept things the way that they are. But you don't have to live that way. You have to find in the core of you what it is that you really believe. I happen to believe that God is my absolute source. I believe that with God, all things are possible. I believe that He has put power on the inside of me that gives me the ability to have strength and stamina to be able to come up with creative ideas. I believe that He has an assignment for me. And so that's what I believe. And you can believe it too. I believe it because it's written in the Bible. I believe it, and that's my standard, my guide. Before anything else that I take a look at, I look at the Word, because I know that God has plans for me. And just like He has plans for me, He has plans for you. And guess what? They're great and wonderful plans. And so we get sidetracked in life, we get thrown off in life when we believe the systems of the world, when we believe all the negativity that people try to impose upon us. We get sidetracked when people impose their doubt on us. You used to believe. Why don't you believe anymore? That's why you assess. And then you make the determination that, my belief system is off. And so I need to make some changes in what I believe. You can still believe. It's not too late, And whether your past is good or bad, you can't focus on this stuff. Old things have passed away, a new life begins. And you can start today if you just believe. Believe in yourself, believe in your dream, believe in your vision, believe that you can do it. Get back up again, get engaged in life, and get back to the place where you were really into greater. You're great. You're phenomenal. You're fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of the Lord. And God has great things for you, okay? So you got to believe. And then after you believe, then you got to create that which you believe, okay? You have to create capacity in your life. Capacity is something that I've been talking about with a lot of people lately. And it really is just creating a space. And so think about it this way. If you're trying to create a space of positivity, then you've got to get rid of the negativity. Okay? So capacity is just saying, you know what? Do I have enough in my mind that's thinking right? And if not, then you got to get rid of the negative so you can fill it with the good things, with the positive things, okay? So you got to create capacity. You have to be intentional in what you do every day. So this is how you create, okay? Capacity for what you need. Clear out the clutter. Get rid of the stuff. For some people, that's a mental process. For other people, that you may have to look at some of your friends and your family members, and I'm not calling them stuff, but some of them have a whole lot of stuff that they bring to you, and it clouds your ability to be able to see right. Some of you may need to clear out the clutter physically in your home, because you really can't think when you got a whole lot of clutter around. And let me tell you something, clutter is often representative of going through a problematic state. There was a time I had to look back. Now my office is always cluttered, okay? I have clutter chaos, creative clutter chaos in my office, okay? I work that way. I like to, put things up and show things, but not every aspect of your life should be that way. So there was a time in my life when I recognized that there were areas in my life that were very chaotic and they were just full of clutter. And I thought, wait a minute, this is reflective of something going on in my life that needs to change. And so I intentionally got up and I spent about 15 minutes a day clearing out the clutter. And when I did, I recognized that I was creating capacity for clarity. Okay, that's really what it's all about. So clear out the clutter, cut off and take the limits off of things that you have done in your life to limit yourself. Things like, well, I'm too old. I don't have what it takes. I know a lot of people that have done things without having the credentialing for what they were supposed to be doing. Okay, think about that for a moment. What they did, they took the limits off and said, you know what, I can do this. I can do this job. I can do this position. And as a result of that, they became educated in what they needed to become educated in, and they took the limits off and they achieved their goals, okay? So cut off and take the limits off your belief systems. Sometimes you have to change your environment. You might have to expand your environment, okay? Expose yourself to some new things. Go some new places, try some new foods, observe people that are doing what you want, and see what it takes for them to do what they're doing. You might even need to ask them, say, hey, how did you get to this place? You know, there's nothing wrong with just communicating with people and saying, excuse me, I don't know you, but I really admire you. What is it that you did to get to where you are? It's really okay for you to ask that question. And then if they respond in a positive way, say, hey, can I be your apprentice? Can I shadow you? Can I work with you? Or can I just ask you a few questions because I'm trying to change my life, because I'm trying to get to greater. Because I'm trying to get to greater and recalibrating everything in my life, and I need somebody that's going to help me to get to where I need to get to. And so expose yourself to greater, press in, and put yourself in a position of growth. Connect with the right people, and identify and achieve the personal goals that you want to achieve. I'm going to give you D. I said ABC, but let me just give you D. D is self-determination. Get some self-determination about yourself. You must be determined to succeed. You can do it. You must have passion about it. And Helen Keller said this: life is either a dare and adventure or nothing at all. So dare to have an adventure in life. And so when you're self-motivated, you're really just encouraging yourself and motivating yourself to do more. You know, self-talk is a great way to motivate yourself. So every morning that you wake up, because we're trying to get to greater, I want you to look into the mirror and say, you know what? You are great, you are awesome, and you will succeed. Can you say that with me? I am great, I am awesome, and I will succeed. Because you can surely do it. Because again, God has something that He has put on the inside of you. And when life overshadows you, then sometimes we forget that greater's on the inside. And then finally, once you get all of this resolved within yourself and you begin to execute, you have to be intentional about taking the leap of faith, okay? If you're going to get to greater, you've got to be intentional about taking that leap of faith so you can get to the manifestation of what it is that God has for you. You've got to be intentional about your living. Now, let me just share with you real quickly. Here's what the dictionary defines intent as: a determination to act in a certain way, a firm determination marked by boldness and steadiness. Okay, so I like that, because if you're going to execute, you got to be bold and you got to be steady. You know, once you have in view what you need to do, then be productive, then execute. You know, if you want to lose weight, pay off debt, start a business, you know, whatever it is that you want to do, you got to prepare for it. You start preparing now for what it is that you're believing for in your future. You have to start now putting into motion or taking the action steps that are required so that you can get to your greater. Sitting back and just waiting on things to happen, guess what? It is so not going to happen, all right? And many of us do that in life. Well, I'm just waiting on things to turn. I'm just waiting on my knight in shining armor to come. I'm just waiting on things to turn in my favor. You know what? You need to stop waiting, and you need to get up and you need to start doing, all right? So, why am I sharing this with you? Because these principles work, and I learned these very early in life. I learned that success is the completion of goals and objectives necessary to achieve a particular task. And so you've got to get up and realize that if your dream is going to be fulfilled, then you have to take the action steps that are required. So guess what? If you're going to get to greater, starting today, you're going to have to accept that you deserve greater. Okay? Resolve that within yourself. You're going to have to believe. You're going to have to be creative. You're going to have to be determined, and you're going to have to learn how to execute. This is my closing thoughts, and it's actually a thought by George Bernard Shaw. The possibilities are numerous once we decide to act and not react. I live by this mantra, because real success is not the attainment of the thing itself, but it's the actual process you go through in order to get it. So it is the sweat that you put out, it is the long hours you put in, It is the decision that you make that you will stay in the fight regardless of what happens. And it's the lessons that you learn as you strive to constantly reach higher levels. Well, guess what? You deserve greater. I'm Dr. Renee. I'm going to speak it for you. Now I need you to believe it and go forth in what it is that God has called you to do. God bless you. I'm Dr. Renee. I'm speaking.
To partner and or support Dr. Renee, visit ReneeHornbuckle.com.